These are the first 5 things we're going to do with the ASUS ROG Ally X.
Oh, he said ROG. AI Andy's in the house.
I had to say ROG. I had to. I'm not explaining to you guys why, but I had to say it.
Just a random inside joke. All right, so the ROG Ally X is almost upon you.
It is.
You've had the kind of pre-review version from them. They took it away from you.
I know. That was
you said so many nice things about it.
Sad day. That was.
And that just proves that we're not sponsored by ASUS. No,
we're not
anyway.
sponsored by ASUS. But today we'll be receiving the retail version of the ROG Ally X.
Well,
yes,
it will be later today.
Yes, it will be. Yeah.
So I wanted to quiz you, Andy, on what are the first 5 things you're going to do with your retail version.
Oh, well, I'm not going to do it with this one. Because this is their one. My pre-order will actually come on release day, so I'm not that lucky. I've pre-ordered it like everyone else. So this would be when I get that one. But
yes,
the first 5 things, let's go through them in order. Just take one by one and go through it rather than spiel them off. Don't you reckon?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I guess the most obvious place is where the ROG Ally X excels over the original ROG Ally, and that is the drive.
Absolutely.
The fact that you can use the beautiful drives now and not those piddly little things.
The silly 2230 drives that are in this thing just here.
Oh, you've got one?
Yeah, I've got an enclosure from when I took mine out of my Steam Deck OLED and upgraded it. I then bought this just so that I could still use that drive so it wasn't wasted. But so we've now got 2280 support in the Ally X, which is amazing, which means cheaper for a start.
Yes, and just a huge amount more choice.
Oh, yeah, huge choice. Cheaper and also much faster read and write speeds because the 2230s suffer from there's no super fast ones at the minute. Yeah, they're all very, very quick. This is
let's be fair.
But 2280s can reach much quicker speeds. Now, the Ally X does support Gen 4, which means we can take advantage of those speeds as well.
Yeah, so was it ETA Prime did a teardown on his that he wasn't supposed to, so he got the read and write speeds of what's actually in there originally.
Yes, and that was on the pre-production model like we had. I've got them written down. So that one had a read speed of around 5,000 megabytes per second and a write speed of 3,400 megabytes per second. So it's no slouch, but it's not the fastest. But
so on the market now, you can get 7,000
plus.
Read and write.
You can actually get 12,000s. They're really expensive.
They must be like little ovens.
Yeah, exactly. But you can get ones that are much faster than the one that came in the pre-production Ally X. Who knows? Well, I will soon when I get the retail version today. But who knows what the drive will be that actually comes in the retail versions? But bear in mind, it now has a 1 terabyte drive in it, whereas the old Ally was a 512 gig. But to me, 1 terabyte's still not enough.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, we often joke about how poorly optimized some AAA games are. Yeah, and you look at Call of Duty is a great example of that. I mean, it just seems to be like every week there's a 40 gig download for it.
Yeah, there is.
So a 1 terabyte drive, it's big. It's great that that's in there by standard. Baseline. Yeah, but it's definitely not enough for what this machine is made for. No, so it makes sense to be changing it out straight away.
Absolutely, and the way I'm going to be using it is literally like AAA games and multiplayer games, which are always the biggest sized games, right? I've got my Steam Deck OLED here for all my indies and retro and older titles. So my ROG is going to be for the best, the newest stuff, the biggest games out there. I want more storage. So I'm looking at getting a 7,000 read and write drive. So 7,000 write, that's more than double the one that ETA Prime found in his pre-release Ally X. So I'm hoping that with the 7,000 write and read that it will have much faster load times as well. Not that it was any slouch previously, but it should kick it up another notch, which will be amazing. And I'm looking at, depending on price, I'm looking at either a 2 terabyte or a 4 terabyte drive. But I'm probably going to go 2 terabyte.
Yeah, the price jump between the two is quite high, unless you're lucky enough to find one in like the Amazon Prime sale or something, which is coming up. So it's worth looking if you're thinking about this. In truth, we talk about 1 terabyte not quite being enough, but I think in truth 2 terabytes will be plenty.
Yes.
So if all you can afford is that kind of 130, 150 price point for a 2 terabyte, go for that.
Yep.
If money's no object, then obviously do the 4 terabyte, because then you don't have to worry about it probably forever.
Yes.
I was going to say, it's a simple upgrade, so it just makes sense to be doing this day one.
It's a simple upgrade. It makes sense to be doing it day one, but there's 2 ways of upgrading it, and I will obviously do a dedicated video on this when I actually get my personal ROG Ally X in the post. But there's 2 ways of doing it. You can do a straight drive swap immediately, and then, basically reinstall the OS, like flash it and everything. Or if you decide to do this at a later date, you can just clone the drive, but you will need an enclosure to be able to clone that drive and then swap it out. So for me, I see it easier to just do it day one, and I'll go through all that in a video tutorial. But it also comes down in terms of space as to how you're using the machine, though. So if you're just using it for just gaming, 2 terabytes is probably going to be fine. If you're going to use it like my wife Christina will be doing, and multi sort of tasking with it, actually using it as a PC as well as gaming, then maybe you'll want to stretch to a larger capacity if you can afford it. But 2 terabytes is going to be fine.
It's going to be plenty.
Yeah, it will be fine.
The next one I want to move on to is probably the most contentious upgrade that you're going to do day one, because I fully disagree with you on this.
I know, I'm torn.
That is screen protecting it. Right. I just want to say from the off, every device I have ever owned, I have never put a screen protector on any of them.
Heathen.
And do you know how many screens I've broken?
All of them.
And I still refuse. No, none. I love raw dogging them. It's just the way it's supposed to be.
It is.
But I think, like, when you look at tablets, phones, and obviously these handheld PCs, when you get the pure unscreen protected experience, it is beautiful.
It is.
But I do understand why you'd want to.
Yes.
I'm going to say straight off, they've got a new type of Gorilla Glass on the Ally X. It's supposed to be 40% more scratch resistant.
Yes, exactly,
So if you do like that beautiful, unprotected experience, then you're probably safe. But it does depend on the environment you live in, children, pets, all those kind of things.
Yeah, and how clumsy you are. Some people are just inherently clumsy,
That's true,
so, that depends. For me, and I'm the opposite of you, I've always loved raw dogging, like the idea of raw dogging, but I've always used protection.
Using that expression.
I've always used protection, right? So I've always, on everything I've owned, ever since I was a little kid, I've always put screen protectors on, just because I'm like a bit OCD with keeping stuff as pristine as I can. And I've always thought, if I get a scratch, same with phones, I much prefer it without one, but I always put one on. And now the thing that got me, because I've done it with everything, I've got my Switch in front of me, my Steam Deck OLED here, and I've used various screen protectors through everything in life. And when we got the Ally X, the pre-release model, obviously they just sent it across, and I didn't have a screen protector on it, so I got to experience it full glory, full raw dog. And it was beautiful. It was so nice, and it was really nice getting a screen protector. Like I said, I like keeping things clean. A screen cloth is what I mean, right? And wiping the screen, and there not being a single bit of speck of dust under the protector or anything. It was just perfect.
No slight edge coming off.
Nothing, no bubbles, no peeling, no dust. So
you're torn on this one, which is for you is unusual, like you say, because you're really OCD. You will put screen protector on everything.
I'm normally
surprised
like
you've not got.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you've not got screen protectors on your glasses. To be honest,
these glasses are absolutely screwed. But I've even got a screen protector ready for the Ally in a basket on Amazon, like ready to buy. Like,
so it's going to happen,
and
it'll
so
happen.
I'm like, I really want to get one.
To be fair to you, it's an £800 device.
Exactly,
it's an expensive bit of hardware that you're getting. You do have a dog. And
I've got a massive dog.
And a clumsy wife, so I can understand you wanting to do it. Okay, the next one, Andy.
Yes.
This is probably the one that's got the most kind of friction from previous ASUS Ally users.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the micro SD
it is indeed,
reader.
Yes, because obviously
cards.
The previous one we know was inherently flawed, at least in the first batch. I believe it only affected the first batch. They changed the motherboard out since, and then it's been fine. So it's not been, I think, as bad as I thought it was, where it was every single one. But obviously it was still a large amount of, like, day one adopters, it would have affected.
Totally.
Which is, it sucks. Like, that sucks massively. But supposedly they've fixed it with changing the motherboard, and the Ally X has changed the placement and everything as well. So
cooling's totally different now.
It should be totally fine. But yeah, whether or not to get one, like, it's questionable.
Well, you could get like a 1 terabyte. I think you can get 1.5 terabyte micro SD card.
Yeah, and
which seems insane.
They're not like crazy expensive. They're expensive, but they're not crazy expensive.
So on one hand, you can get some really cheap storage.
Yes.
That will work okay.
Yeah.
On the other hand, my head always goes, I hate using hate using SD cards or anything that's even semi-permanent.
Yeah.
For me, the only purpose of that slot on anything is just to transfer a file very briefly.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But there are some people that do use them for more permanent or semi-permanent storage.
Yeah. Well, the same with my Switch. My Switch OLED's got one in at all times. My Steam Deck OLED's got one in at all times. But I only use them, well, at least on my Steam Deck, I only use it for emulation and for indie titles. That is it.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at 100 megabytes per second read and write, like on the good ones. Some go a bit higher than that. You can get like 180 read and write, I think, but it depends on the actual SD reader in the device.
Yeah.
So the Switch can only take 100 megabytes per second or whatever. So you're limited to speeds on there. So for me, it's always been an indie and retro thing.
Emulation, ROMs, those kind of things.
So for me, the Ally, as I said earlier, isn't going to be that. My Ally is going to be just purely for AAA and multiplayer games. So the SD card support is kind of a bit useless for me.
I think the thing of like getting a dedicated micro SD card for this, if you're going to be using your Ally X for some productivity as well, like a laptop,
absolutely, yes,
then it does make sense.
It does,
and then take full advantage of the best deals you can find for the 1 terabyte or the 1.5 terabyte micro SD cards for it. It's a simple upgrade, as in you don't actually have to do anything.
Yes. The other good thing you could use, as you were saying, AJ, was if you do have like a proper rig already with all your games on, you could drag and drop them all onto a micro SD card, stick them in the Ally, drag and drop them off. But I mean, it would probably be quite slow read and write, obviously, because of the speeds on it. I think
if you filled up a 1.5 terabyte micro SD card, it's going to be a slow churn.
But it's an option, isn't it? It's an option. It all depends on what you're doing. I wouldn't run games off it unless it's emulated or indie. And for me, because I'm going to upgrade my NVMe, I'm probably just not going to bother with the SD card. But
and also, you're in that kind of small percentage of people that's going to keep your Steam Deck at the same time as having the ROG Ally X. For those emulation and for those indie titles, well, you got the Steam Deck for that. That's kind of what it's made for.
Exactly.
Okay, the fourth point, and I want you to talk to me about this because this is your wheelhouse, and that's optimizing Windows.
Oh, yes. So
there's a few bloats to trim from that thing.
There is. So I've got a couple of things I wanted to talk about here, is like optimization, and then also Windows updates, and not just Windows updates, but just updates in general. Because I'm sure there's going to be people, we've seen it across the like hundreds and hundreds of comments we've got like on our videos of covering the Ally X, of people that are now ditching console or jumping into this as their first PC experience for gaming, so any PC gamer will know all these things anyway, but for those new to this kind of like, system, let's say, they might not. So you are going to have to update in various places. It's not a one-click button update all. However, ASUS have tried to implement that into Armoury Crate like 1.5 with the new Armoury Crate Update Center. However, I would still recommend checking these things separately. We know that there's some day one updates, don't we? Yeah,
they've ASUS PR from the UK told us that there's a day one update for Armoury Crate. There's a day one update for the My ASUS app. There will also be a Windows 11 update by the time you get your units out. So they're things that will be very obvious to you that will probably show up in the update center.
Yes, I reckon it will just automatically start doing it.
it's worth also checking the Microsoft Store.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, because it's easy to slip by, but there will always be Microsoft Store updates, and they don't ping up. Like, so if you do Windows updates, it won't just update the store. You have to open the store, check for updates, and then it will update loads of different apps and stuff that were there, including Xbox, the Xbox app and stuff like that. So when you get yours, Xbox and Ubisoft launcher and all these other launchers won't already be pre-installed, so you'll likely need to go and download them separately. But yeah, just checking updates across the board there. And again,
I'm pretty sure you'll
go on.
I'm pretty sure you're going to do a little guide on some of the updates to check, but also some of the bloat that's worth trimming out of Windows that's there by standard.
Absolutely, because this is only really appealing to those that are just using this as a gaming system. I'd say if you're like using this as a multitask system where you're actually going to use this as a PC, just leave it as it is. There might be a couple of things you can trim, but you're probably better off just leaving it standard. However, if you're purely looking at using like this as a gaming only system, like I'm pretty much going to do, there's plenty of Windows stuff that don't need to be there, that will be slowing your device down or just taking up room,
Well, yeah, if you're not going to do step one in these first 5 things, then
exactly.
You're going to need every meg of that 1 terabyte drive.
Yes,
so exactly. it's worth trimming out all the things that you don't need.
Absolutely.
My favorite part is the 5th point that we're going to look at, the 5th and final.
Yes.
And that's accessories we would like to see.
Yes.
Because we do a lot of work with accessory makers, we do a lot of reviews of cases, controllers, grip cases, all those kind of things. So there's some we've spoken to about this as well. But yeah, I think the first one is probably your favourite, and that's the Skull & Co.
Yes.
They do that awesome grip case for the Steam Deck.
They do. They make it already for the V1 Ally as well.
Yeah.
So this is the Skull & Co. grip case, right? And it is so simple, but it's perfect. Beautiful because it's got a built-in stand, right? So it's just moulded across the bottom, and that just stands perfectly, but it also is cut out perfectly. It's got really nice grips on the side. The triggers and bumpers are completely unaffected, which I hate when companies cover them. I hate that. Just leave it open. This is by far the best Steam Deck accessory, and it's one of the cheapest. We've been sent some really expensive ones that are beautiful. They're really nice, but I've always come back to this. I always come back to this.
And they've got it in various different colours as well. You don't have to have it in that kind of camo grey, whatever it is. So I'd really like to see Skull & Co.'s Ally X grip case, which I'm sure they're going to do.
Yes.
Another great case manufacturer is TomTok.
Yeah.
They do like hard shell cases as well, like carry cases. They did arrange for the original Ally, so I spoke to them and they are planning on stuff for the Ally X, so that's going to be definitely one to watch.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
You were talking about, there's some news about the official ASUS case.
I found it really weird because I went to buy one because I was like, right, I'll just buy one then, because it's the official hard case, which also fits the original Ally as well. So they're making, so it's a big thing. It's not like a slimline case like TomTok would make. This is more like a travel companion. So it'd be a big, large thing that you could probably put other stuff in, maybe a power bank or something. So it will fit the original and the X as well. It looks really cool. It's their first hard case because the previous one was like a soft case. And I was like, oh, this looks great. But then it was like, notify me when pre-orders are in or something. You couldn't even pre-order it. I was like, that's weird.
Wow.
And then I was watching the ASUS live thing, the questions answered about the Ally X, and they said in that it was delayed due to manufacturing delays or something. So I think it's going to be 3 weeks after the launch of the X is when it will go live to purchase, which is kind of annoying because you can't
end of
buy
August
it at the same time.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying. And if they're not careful, there's going to be others that beat them to the punch on that.
Exactly, yeah, like TomTok or whoever.
Like TomTok, Skull & Co. will probably get there. The other kind of, and this is just kind of fantasy land, you're like, do you know what? What would be really cool is if you could get aftermarket metal anti-friction rings for the joysticks.
Yeah, that just clip around them. Yeah.
You've seen plastic ones or rubber or whatever they are. I think they're plastic, are they?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I've not looked into it enough. I looked at it a few weeks ago, but you can buy these weird things that go around the stick. I believe they stretch over, so there must be some sort of firm rubber.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So some of the best pro controllers that we've looked at, for the kind of multi-platform, but specifically on the Nintendo Switch, The GUI kit.
Yes.
KK3 Max, was it?
KK3 Max, yeah. No, sorry. Yeah. Well, that has it, but the Pro is the one we've recently looked at, which is the nicest sticks I've felt on anything ever in my life.
They've got gorgeous anti-friction rings around the gate of the joysticks, but also actually on the joystick themselves, there's metal.
Yes.
And whenever we get a Pro controller that's got metal, it honestly, it's like the thumb equivalent of looking at like a beautiful OLED screen or VRR. It's like, oh, this just feels like it's how it's supposed to be.
And there's no risk of wear because the metal against the plastic, it's like polished metal. And when you're rubbing that around that anti-friction ring, you're not going to grind it down, which I know was an issue with the first Ally, which is not an issue now with the Ally X because they've changed the sticks and everything. But if they had those metal anti-friction rings, that would have just taken it that next level up. So it'd be really cool if someone could design like a hinged system, do you know what I mean? That kind of like clipped around the stem of your joystick and then sat flush so that you could then, get that added benefit, because that would be really cool.
It'd be really cool. That's Fantasyland, though.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's probably never going to happen. But
really, I think that it's almost like the obvious 5 things to do, but go backing over it. The drive, upgrading your drive straight away, it's relatively cheap compared to the device.
Yep.
You're going to add a load of legs to it. Screen protector, which I fully disagree with.
I know.
There we have it.
I don't want to use it, but I think I'd probably end up getting one.
Yeah. Getting yourself a decent sized micro SD card, if you're going to use it for anything like multi-purpose, or if you are going to emulate or put ROMs on it or indie games, optimize Windows, which is like the biggest. I'm looking forward to your video on that because that's going to be really nerdy and techy.
We'll see. I'll probably just end up bricking
it. Don't brick it. Don't follow his review. And then the cases, the accessories and stuff that you're going to be able to get for this. I guess in the accessories, we didn't touch upon any dock solutions.
No, because
of which there will be.
Yeah, well, there's already a load. Do you know what I mean? And that will support, that will already be out, that will support the Steam Deck and the original Ally. Nothing's going to change in that front. It's not really changing any of the output. So the only difference with the Ally X is that it now supports 100-watt charging, whereas the original was 65-watt max. So that could affect what dock you want if you want to get 100-watt power.
Yep. Yeah. But I think that about wraps it up. That's a nice quick summary of the first 5 things you're going to do with it. Absolutely. And I'm going to watch on with lust.
Exactly. Yeah. And no, you're going to get one. I'm still trying to force him to buy one.
I'm buying one as well.
You need to buy one. But anyway, let us know what your first 5 things would be, or if there's anything we've missed that you think's relevant, because maybe I'll do it or throw it in another video and not credit you.
Yeah, totally. And whilst you're down there digging around in the comments, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, what else should they do?
They should become a member, yes, and then they can join our beautiful members in our private Discord for members only, and you get to see these videos early as well.
Yes, and there's only one final thing to do before you go, and that is to watch another video from us smashed between our faces, probably about the ROG Ally X.
It will be from the podcast channel, so go over there and subscribe as well.
Wow, nice. Bye.
Bye.